Hi guys, how are you? Today's video is going to be a coffee chat. I've already drank half of my coffee, and as usual, I won't put any insert in this video, so feel free to put me in the background while you're doing chores. And before you do that, Booker wants to say hi. Okay. In today's video, mainly I want to talk about how obsessed I am over self-improvement materials and how they have been tremendously helpful for my screenwriting. And then I recently working on my screenplay a lot, and during this process there were a lot of thoughts coming up that I think it would be very interesting to share with you. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Nani. I'm a writer, director, producer based in Los Angeles, and my first feature film just come out, and you can check it out through the link down below on Apple TV, Amazon, Google Play, things like that, all the VOD platform. And then be sure to DM me, let me know how do you feel about the film. So recently I have been heavily focused on redeveloping my characters for my feature screenplay. Even though I already have a draft, but by reading that draft, it showed me a lot of weakness in the character development. It's very clear that everything's very, not all of them are very superficial. They are here and there very good moments that give me inspiration towards the character, but majority of part of the draft, it just doesn't feel right. There are stories, but there's no depth. So I went back to reworking on my character development. I'm very curious about you. How did you start your writing process? Because I find myself different than a lot of other people that I know. In general, before I start writing my story, I don't have a huge idea. I don't have something that's very exciting, a plot that it's going to grab audience attention very well. Usually what inspired me is a moment of an image, a scene, a feeling, especially a type of emotion, type of feeling that I start looking into what caused that emotion, and then that led me to think about a type of a character, and then certain imageries, and then those just start branching out into a world. That world contains a lot of what ifs questions that I ask. What if this character going through this? What if this world is setting at this time of this kind of political environment, or things like that? And then that kind of branching out bigger and bigger. So to me, before I even start writing, the most important thing is to try my best to figure out who my character is, because that basically driven me to write all the scenes, all the dialogues. Of course, the problem is that I cannot fully understand my character until I put them on paper, because sometimes they act and speak for themselves. I don't know if you feel that way. Leave me comment down below, let me know. But what I usually do is when I feel I'm stuck on the character development and that this is what I can't get for now, I would start writing again. And then throughout the whole writing process, I kind of learn about the character more, and then I will go back to redevelop the character again, based on what I have on paper. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I don't know if this is similar to your process. I'm always very interested in learning how other people working on the screenplays. So let me know. Leave a comment down below how you deal with this whole developing and rewriting process. Sidetracked a lot. But recently while I'm working on my characters, it dawned on me that I've been I have a 2 character right now. I'm just very obsessed with multi-story, parallel story kind of movie. But one of my character is actually similar to my first feature film, and then they are very similar to myself. That my own problem and my own mental health issue and my own weakness. And it's not something that I purposefully doing it, but subconsciously, that's just how it evolved. What's very interesting is my first feature film, Beneath the Banyan Tree. Today, especially during the time that I'm promoting the film, there was a lot of interview asking me about characters and themes of the film. And I find my answer to those things are exactly matching my own life struggle, which is very interesting because even though when I was writing that film and then developing that film, I was using a lot of reference from the surrounding of my life. I was trying to write a dynamic of a character that's similar to my family, but there was never an intention of I'm going to peeling my skin to expose my soul. But somehow I was exposed because of the film. I think it's because I was trying to present some sort of honest emotion to the story, and I did put in certain elements are things that I feel it's too close to home and I'm in fear of, but I can't quite explain yet. So when I was developing the character, I did look into some weakness to the characters, and basically a good character, they have 2 different types of weakness. I believe I talked about in my previous video like a couple years ago. You will have a moral weakness that hold you back and make you to do things that hurting people around you, but you also have psychological weakness that it's perpetrate on yourself, that you do or sabotaging yourself of things. And these 2 weaknesses are actually weaving together into one people, and then they go together, like you fix one, the other one will be exposed and also being fixed. I hope I'm making sense. And then if you are not dealing with those weaknesses, the external conflict is not going to be solved. So that's how I think of my characters, and that's what I did with my Beneath the Banyan Tree, all my 4 characters. What's interesting is afterwards, when I'm going back to watch the film after I gone through a lot recent years and had a lot of self work on my self-development, went through a lot of therapy, so to understand myself much better in a much more clear way. And somehow that made me go back to see this film in a fresher, clear perspective, and then realize the whole film is content my own struggle and my own weakness, my own flaws. Almost that film is universe giving me a lesson about myself, that kind of feeling. And then I feel what's fascinated about self-improvement and mental health psychology material is it's like onion. You peel layers and layers, and there is more inside. There is always more. It might sound a little bit weird, but the more you peel, the stinkier it is, and then the exciting you feel. You get cry because of peeling the onions. It's like there are so many different aspects of our lives, traumas, events that we went through that's never processed, that's never understood in our conscious mind. And now when we become mature, we dealing with life based off those traumas and those reactivity that we have based off our past. And to start learning and develop and bring those reactivity into light to understand where it came from. It's such emotional and an exciting process. And when you go to watch all the great films, that's how all the characters present in front of us, which is that their whole psychology structure was so well developed, so full, that like a real person. And that's what makes the characters and the story so relatable, because dealing with those kind of things and problems is what everybody's life is all about. So I feel that's the portal for a writer to connect with their audience. At least that's how I feel about it. So when I first time started reading a lot of self-development books, I want to make it clear when I'm talking about self-development here in this context, I'm not talking about things like be positive, you can do it, get your energy and stuff like that. I'm not talking about blindly focusing on the positivity side of things, because personally I feel that's kind of toxic. I'm talking about self-development in a sense of to truly actually go in deeper to understand your wounds, to understand your vulnerability, the way you do things, why you act or sabotaging your work, why you have a relationship problem, just all of those things. The deeper you go, the clearer you see, the more material you have to work with. So I started out reading this kind of book because I find myself when I first time self-employed, work for myself, working on my own passion project. I find that the biggest obstacle is not I don't know how to do it, is I was obviously, and I still am in a sense, sabotaging myself. I was not motivated. I was not be able to manage myself. I wanted to do something so bad, but somehow I couldn't bring myself to do it. I want to write so bad, but somehow I procrastinate so much till a point that there were thoughts in my mind saying, hey, I hate yourself. I hate myself. And I thought in the very beginning, I thought it was just like laziness, until I started learning about how our brain works, and I started realize it's not that simple. It's about my lack of self-worth, because the thoughts or the environment brainwashing about how far filmmaking career it is to a person that's ordinary, aka me. That's how we all feel about ourselves, and how that distance made me feel incompetent, and also a lot of upbringing of never feel good enough, never doing anything right, never getting the approval I want, just all of those things. They piling up to cause me having enough of fear that getting failed or too scared to figure things out or testing water of how things should be done. Even though I feel like I can do it, I can become a great filmmaker, I can do a lot, but subconsciously my mind's already made a decision that I'm ordinary, I'm not good enough, and I'll never be able to do it. Then why bother? So that's the reason I went into self-development, and it was a long time struggle of how to learn how to treat myself, how to manage myself, and work with my mental health, And it's not one day thing that as soon as I understand, I can be very motivated to do a lot of work. It's more of a gradual process that a couple years looking back, I feel, oh, I'm able to do much more than before. And then another couple years looking back, I find myself in even clearer, better place that I can be more motivated, I can feel more free to create, to develop. So it's a long process. That's why every year I read a lot of self-help books. But another reason for my own mental health, I went through some trauma in 2020, and then that brought up a lot of my childhood mental issue and problems that I was not dealing with. So entire year of 2020 and 2021, I was heavily working very closely with my therapist to trying to figure out my mind. Through this process, I gained so much more clarity about my flaw and weakness not only show up in my work, but also in my day-to-day life, friendship, relationship, my anxiety, family relationship, just all aspects that you can think of. And then the more I look into it, the more surprise I have, and then the more I realize I need to learn about myself. There was too many shadows that needs to be brought into light. And then the clearer I start seeing myself, the clearer I start seeing characters in films. And then that led me to revisit my character and realize there are so much work needs to be done. I don't know if this is confusing or boring for you, but this is basically what I'm trying to work on, and to look into different characters through a lens of clarity, clear vulnerability, and then that can, I always believe that can lead to a wonderful, great story. So I want to give an overall explain of why I feel this whole building self-awareness, this whole learning about ourselves, working on our mental health, reading a lot of spiritual or mental health books and psychology books, stuff like that can help with our writing and filmmaking career, because not only it can help us set our mind free from fear, not completely free, but less fearful of pursuing our career, less being reactive towards our environment and things we experience based off our subconscious trauma reactions towards things. Have a fresher, clear perspective about ourselves, so that we don't do much of things to self-sabotaging our process, and then become more creative because of the freedom that we give to ourselves. At the same time, it also helps ourselves see ourselves clearly and see the world and people around us with a boundary, that we are able to experience the emotion, at the same time distance ourselves enough to see everything in a light of certain truth, certain pattern, certain the common thing in the world around all the people. When we can extract these aspect of human being, of ourself, find the common of all those things, that's when we can put those into characters and build somebody who is fuller, who is real, and then let that person to go into a world that you designed to experience life. And then I believe that kind of story will be much more powerful towards any audience. It will be much more relatable. That's how I feel. And I believe that kind of story will be more timely as well. Sometimes I feel it's really hard to feel clear enough about the character, just like life. Sometimes you feel, oh, there's some clarity about oneself. And as you go on with life, you get confused again. And to writing, that's exactly the same feeling that I got, that when I when I develop a character, let's use my film Beneath the Banner Tree as example. One of the main character, Aijia, she want her making her own decision. She's very willful, and she want to be independent. She want to feel free from her mother, but at the same time, she was so lacking of self-confidence. She need approval so much, especially the approval from her mother, that she started lying or do things that to trying to get that piece of approval. But ironically, her mother never gave her approval, but always judgmental. And then that made her even wanted the approval more. But you see, that flaw is exactly what she don't want within her life, because she want to be independent. And if you want independent, why are you seeking approval? So that's a conflict within herself. And then I think that's what made the character very interesting to me. In the process of trying to figuring this out, there will be moments of confusion because it's so close to home that it's so hard to see things clearly. And then during the writing process back then, I was constantly getting confused, and sometimes I feel it's all clear out and later I got confused again. Every time I got those journaling when I find a little bit more clarity on the theme itself or the conflict itself, the character itself, even though I'm dealing with the same thing over and over. And what gave me goosebumps, and then what made me so excited about keep writing the story. And I think that's mainly the part hooked me so much about writing story. It's not about having a plot that surprise people or making people laugh. I love those kind of things, but most things that hook me so much is the adrenaline, the feeling, the excitement that I got every time when I find a little bit clarity on the character and have a huge aha moment about myself. So that's why I feel self-improvement, self-development, being conscious, being self-aware is such important thing for develop the ability to write a great character. I just really want to share this with you. I don't know if you feel the same way. Please share in the comment down below. Let me know how you write your story, how you develop your character. What's your writing process is there any different than mine? If you haven't already, you can check my film through the link down below on Apple or Amazon. And if you have the time, I will be very grateful that if you can support my film and leave my film IMDb or a letterbox or an Apple Amazon review. Let me know how do you think about the film. And I have been writing and working on my film study about other people's film, watching a lot of movie lately and read a lot. So I'm in a very good momentum, gradually getting back on track of building my creativity. And if you haven't watched my last vlog, it's a beautiful day of all about filmmaking. I'm going to put it right here and you can check that out. And be patient, be present, stay creative. I'll see you next week.